Have you ever had that feeling where you're just going through the motions? Like you're detached from your own life, watching it happen from a distance, but you're not really feeling any of it. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. So let's dive into this incredibly common but really misunderstood experience of emotional numbness.
This feeling is so specific that people who go through it often use the exact same kind of imagery. This description here, as if separated by a barrier behind glass, just perfectly captures that sense of being an observer in your own life. It's this really profound feeling of disconnection that we're going to unpack today.
Okay, so to kick things off, what exactly is this strange and honestly pretty unsettling feeling? Let's put a name to it so we can really understand what's at its core.
The clinical term for this is depersonalization. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful. But what it really boils down to is the sense of unreality about your own self. It's not that you don't know who you are, but it's more like your own thoughts, your feelings, even your own body can feel like they don't quite belong to you. Now, this is really important because it clears up a super common point of confusion. Depersonalization is all about feeling detached from yourself. Its close cousin, derealization, is about feeling detached from the world around you. When everything seems kind of foggy or dreamlike or just off. They often show up together, but the focus is totally different.
So, where does this all come from? Well, far from being a sign that something is fundamentally broken, depersonalization is actually a coping mechanism. It's a classic response to overwhelming pressure, whether that's physical or psychological. Your brain basically hits a circuit breaker to protect you from an experience that just feels like too much to handle. So, if it's a protective reflex, how does it sometimes build into something more chronic? Let's dig into how this feeling of disconnection can get so powerful that we actually start to feel like strangers to ourselves. And this brings us right to the concept of burnout. The World Health Organization defines it with 3 key ingredients. First, there's emotional exhaustion. You're just running on empty. Second, a reduced sense of accomplishment. And third, there it is again, depersonalization, where you start feeling colder, more distant, more detached. But here's the million-dollar question, right? We all have an inner critic. So how does that voice, that constant negative chatter in our heads, actually transform into a total lack of feeling? What's the pathway from one to the other?
Well, it turns out the missing link seems to be this idea called self-alienation. This is that critical stage where the inner criticism makes you feel so distant from your own true self that your thoughts and feelings start to seem, fake or inauthentic, like they belong to somebody else. And this right here, this slide just illustrates that chain reaction perfectly. A recent study actually mapped this all out. If you follow the arrows, you can see that self-criticism doesn't just make a direct leap to numbness. No. First, it fuels that self-alienation, that feeling of being a stranger to yourself. It's that profound internal disconnection that then paves the way for emotional numbness to really take hold.
And the data they found is pretty compelling. Look at the strength of these connections. The link between self-alienation and emotional numbness is incredibly strong, a correlation of 0.61. This shows that self-alienation isn't just some minor factor. It is a major psychological bridge on that path to feeling completely numb. But this whole experience isn't just psychological. It is absolutely not all in your head. In fact, recent science is revealing that these feelings of disconnection have deep and honestly really surprising roots in our biology. Did you know this? Your gut contains an entire nervous system. They call it the enteric nervous system, with over 100 million neurons. That's actually more than you have in your spinal cord. This second brain is in constant conversation with the brain up in your head. This whole communication network is called the gut-brain axis, and it is absolutely a two-way street. The microbes in your gut produce molecules that travel up to the brain, influencing everything from your mood to your motivation. And it goes the other way too. Stress signals from your brain can directly change the health and the makeup of your gut microbiome. So the crucial point here is that this communication superhighway has a name. It's the vagus nerve. And get this, research from Stanford Medicine on long COVID shows that when the signals along this nerve get disrupted, it can lead directly to cognitive issues like brain fog and memory lapses, feelings that are very, very close to that sense of disconnection we've been talking about. Okay, so now that we understand the psychological and the biological roots of this disconnection, how do we find our way back? Let's explore some really grounded, actionable strategies for reconnecting with ourselves. First, and this is probably the most important thing, let's reframe the entire experience. This quote just puts it perfectly. Numbness isn't a failure. It's a signal from your nervous system that it needs care and it needs safety. The goal isn't to force feeling back, but to create the conditions where it can return naturally.
You know, reconnection often begins with the body, because physical sensation usually comes back online before complex emotions do. These simple, physical things are actually powerful signals of safety. A short walk, a regular sleep schedule, a warm shower, these aren't just distractions. They are direct messages to your nervous system saying, hey, the threat has passed. It's safe to start feeling again.
And if you're a numbers person and need something concrete to hold on to, here it is, 42%. Researchers studying burnout found that our bodies and brains need to spend about 42% of the day resting just to function at their best. That's roughly 10 hours out of every 24. It's a powerful biological reminder that rest is not a luxury, it's not a sign of weakness, it's an absolute necessity for preventing this kind of disconnect.
So once you've started to establish that physical safety, you can begin to gently rebuild trust with your emotions. The key here is curiosity, not judgment. Just start to notice the small things, a tiny flicker of interest, a brief moment of sadness, and just acknowledge them. You're not trying to force some huge emotional breakthrough. You're just letting your feelings know they're welcome to come back.
So we end on this question. We've seen that disconnection is a complex signal, woven together from our psychology, our habits, and our very biology. It's a constant conversation happening between your mind and your body. And maybe the most important step on the path back to yourself is just to start listening. What is your body trying to tell you?